Welcome to Consciously Inspired Minds, where we ditch the default and live life by design. I'm your host, Brandy White, personal growth enthusiast, entrepreneur, and lifestyle coach. I host conversations with creators, entrepreneurs, healers, and educators committed to living a life of truth, intention, and connection. Understanding how to discover their inner vision to design their outer world. Our guests take us on a journey of what it means to embody a life of conscious inspiration, joy, impact, and service. Get ready to be inspired. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another beautiful episode of Consciously Inspired Minds. I have a friend of mine on. Her name is Amanda Popovski. Amanda, how are you?
I'm so good and so happy to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm so excited. You guys are going to love Amanda so much. She has so much energy. She's so playful. She's so honest. So it's Monday. It's Labor Day. And it's a beautiful day. And I don't know about you, Amanda, but I'm feeling just very grounded and full of ease and calm. And you're going to have so much juicy information to share with us and so many tips that I know our listeners are going to take so much from. So thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, a true honor and a pleasure.
Of course. All right, everybody. So you're in for a treat today, my friends. Amanda Popovski is a life and business coach for badass female entrepreneurs. She incorporates mindset mastery and manifestation wisdom to move her clients from overwhelmed, overthinking, and holding back to playing big in their life and business like never before. With Amanda, you can trust that you're accessing your highest insights, strategizing wisely for your business, and moving in alignment with your unique purpose. Oh, this is these are all the things that I love to talk about so much.
Yes.
So this is going to be an awesome conversation today. So Amanda, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you've come from, a little bit about your background and how that sort of led you to where you are today and the influence and impact that you're making in the world.
So good. I do my fair share of inner child work, but I haven't reflected on my childhood in a very long time. So I appreciate this question so much. I was always a bit of an indigo child, like very empathic, very much in tune with other people, kind of mature, wise. I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to that, to kind of feeling like maybe an outsider in the teenage years and just feeling a little bit like I did drama club and student council and all these things. But I think deeper down, I felt kind of alone and unique and had to wrestle with that growing up in a small town in Western New York. These concepts of self-development and manifestation and living a truly successful and abundant life beyond the pattern of your parents, it's just not something that's super common around here. So I found that when I discovered life coaching, it's a great story actually. So I was in Argentina on a study abroad trip because I majored in Spanish, and it was just for 3 weeks, but we left on Christmas Day. And my brother had gotten me a personal development book. It was the first one I ever got. And I was like, whatever, I'll just throw it in my suitcase. Cut to us on the beach, me laying on my stomach, so absorbed in this book that I get the worst sunburn of my life all over my back. And it turned out into a killer tan. But I was so absorbed and like, oh my gosh, finally, I feel like someone understands what it's like to be made for more. There are my people out there and I could help them if I were a coach. And so thus began my kind of tumultuous and slightly traumatic journey into becoming a coach in college. And then I did digital marketing, had my own business there. I went into corporate, and over the past year and a half or 2 years have really stepped into my own as spreading my wings and being the life and business coach I always wanted to be.
What was that book called that you read? That your
Oh,
brother
it's
gave
called
you?
You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero.
Okay. Yeah. I've not personally read that book, but it's come into my orbit so many times. So I'm just going to have to get it.
Are you a generator, Brandy?
I am a generator.
Okay.
So we're talking human design, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Amazing. Well, good. So, I was on your Instagram account, and this is where you can find all things on Amanda and so many tips and, just juicy information. But what is it about, your specific focus and coaching that you're so passionate about? So tell us a little bit about who you serve and who your ideal client is.
I started off in college as a self-love coach,
Ah.
really like wanting women especially to love the crap out of themselves. And that kind of ebbed and flowed. And then when I started this coaching, like I call it quote unquote for reals, just recently, I started off with purpose and like really activating your purpose and going above and beyond what you think is possible for you, which morphed into more businessy stuff and has now really come together in this place of like, I just want these badass women to learn how to turn their magic wand on, basically, and live this life of abundance and living in their manifestation powers and living as the creators that they are, especially in their business, because I feel like the people who are meant to own businesses and deeply create from their heart, these are the people that need to be the first defense, having these tools of all of the coaching things that you said in my introduction and that you teach on as well, because then it just trickles down into their services. And I love especially that we have come to a place in society where we are free to engage with, like, there's a real championing of small businesses. And I think that includes entrepreneurs like us. So instead of going to a corporation or something, there's these people like you and I, and probably your listeners, that have this aura and energetic impact of a corporation, but are just these people, right? That have really turned on their magic wands and just are playing as big as possible and making shit happen in their life.
Yeah.
I think that's what really, it has inspired me all along, is like, oh my gosh, we have so much power as human beings. We have so much power as women. And I want all women to be playing as big as possible, taking risks, leaning into the feminine surrender, like all of these really juicy concepts. And I think that's really at the heart of what I do, is encouraging people to just let go of any fears or doubts that they have and see what they can get away with.
So I think you and I share a lot of similarities in the way, what I've just kind of gathered a little bit from your childhood, in the sense of belonging. And as we were chatting before we hopped on today, the sense of belonging is really important to me because I never felt like I belonged anywhere as a child. And so I didn't even feel like I belonged in my immediate family. I felt very much, there was always, I mentioned this in my solo episode, there was always a lot of love in the house. Like, I always knew I was loved and basic needs were met, sort of thing. But I just always had those moments of not feeling understood.
Yes.
And I was also a very sensitive, intuitive kid. But that sort of, I think because I did not feel a sense of belonging or comfort or safety, that got read as like disgruntled and frustrated and angry and stern and all the things that I did not personally identify with. And I want to say that the frustration, the irritability, or just this sort of fiery way of being was my way of self-protecting and just trying to figure out where I did fit in and how to fit in. And I'd always had this affinity for personal growth and development. Like I remember when Oprah had first talked about The Secret on her show, I was like, whoa, like what is this?
Yes.
And I bought the book and I read the book, and I just always was pulled to understanding like human behavior and why the success of human behavior as well. And as I started to get older, I grew up with a lot of shame. So there was a lot of shame surrounding me as well, and a lot of unworthiness, a lot of lack. And so as I became a young adult and I started to build agency and choice, and I got more control over the life I wanted to live, that's what sort of led me on this corporate trajectory. I landed in that space. And as I continued to be a quote unquote good, high performing employee, that started to reward me in many, many ways. And in many ways, that was really important to me. I felt respected. I felt seen. I felt validated. So all of these things. But then that led me to this place of inauthenticity. I felt very inauthentic eventually in my career, where I woke up one day and I'm like, how the hell did I even get here? I'm not happy. Everything feels forced. And that's when I really started to suffer. And the suffering became so bad that it sort of cracked me open. And that's when I really started to step into my personal truth. And it really wasn't, and it's like I came back to this remembering of who I am. And so I'm really curious for you. It sounds like, and I say all that because when you say that you want women to be able to sort of wave their magic wand and to show up as themselves in a way that feels fully expressive and true, what was that moment for you that you stepped into your truth?
I'm just sitting in everything that you just said. That was such a powerful message and almost 100% what my journey was as well. So my moment was very similar to yours. I've had a few, but I want to say the most recent one was leaving corporate and not having a net to back me up.
Yes.
And just fully trusting, because I was in corporate, and I really wanted to grow my business to match my corporate income before I left, like do it the smart way, right? And I was talking to my own coach about how like not great I was feeling, and how a certain part of my brain was like, well, do I even want to do coaching? It tires me out so much after I get home from a long day, and I don't want to burn out. And she had shared with me, Amanda, you're already burnt out. You are actively burning yourself out by staying in this situation.
And why do you think she said that? Because I think that this is really important too. Why do you think she said you were burnt out already in that moment?
because she was picking up on something that I couldn't see in myself, which is the beauty of coaching, right? She was picking up on the fact that my mind was slowly but surely taking over my motivation and my willpower in this thing that I am so clearly gifted in and want to do. And she noticed in me, which I thought was just normal and something I had to push through.
Yeah.
She and many other people noticed in me that I was talking very negatively about my corporate experience, but I didn't, like, my mind didn't connect the dots that I was having a bad time. It just felt like a slow draining that I was like, I'm just going to push through. I just need to make this amount of money and then I'll leave.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I really considered what she said. And I had two options. I could either change my attitude about work and about coaching, or I could fully lean into the intuitive decision that had been knocking on my door and make the conscious choice to leave. And I chose to do the second, even though many times before I had done the first and had gotten fine results. But I was walking into a corporate environment and my body was telling me that this was wrong. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling so much friction. I was used to being a very high performer and I could not get my act together. Every day was a struggle. And it wasn't until I had this moment of like, I could leave. I had never considered that before. Like, I could leave before I have that safety net. And that just, in true generator fashion, human design, I let it kind of roll around my brain. And I made that decision. But I think the real point of living in truth was that I took 2 weeks off afterwards and did not jump directly into the next job. And what that allowed me to do is like find belonging in myself. Because as I was listening to you speak about belonging, when we're kids, I feel like our sense of belonging lies in our family and outside sources as they teach us. As we become adults and become these high-performing, successful employees, our sense of belonging is exported then to the company that is paying us and sustaining our livelihood. And the respect and admiration of others, that's a huge thing for me too. That becomes the exported version of our belonging. And then as we step further and further into the truth and trust and trust and trust and surrender, we start to come back to ourselves and remind ourselves, just like you said, it's a remembering, it's a deep knowledge that we always had, but there was so much shit on top of it that we had to really clear away all the gunk to see that we truly belong to ourselves and also to the universe as a piece of its grand design. We're so privileged to be alive on this planet. It's crazy. But that's what came to mind when you were talking about belonging. I was like, why do we let ourselves belong everywhere but right here with ourselves?
Yeah. And I think this sense of burnout happens when we're not living our truth. The burnout happens. I was having this conversation with my friend Nate on a previous episode. The burnout happens when we're not living in our authenticity. Because it's so hard. Everything that we do is so hard. And it feels forced and we're exhausted and we're taking up so much time, effort, energy to live into this thing, to perform into this thing, to prove this thing, that we come out the other side just completely exhausted and out of alignment with ourselves, with our relationships, with life, with the universe, with source. And so, I can really appreciate when you said also that this sense of belonging. Growing up as children, we're in this family unit and we are giving a lot of our power and authority over to the people that are giving us care and love and our needs met. And then as we get older, we're giving our authority away to different places and spaces. And that was another thing for me living in corporate. I was giving, because it was rewarding me in all the ways I needed to feel validated and seen, I was giving all of my authority to it. Like I was throwing all of my authority into my work, all of it. And so anybody could have asked me to do anything or put in any amount of hours. And when I had first left corporate, I thought, okay, this type of work just wasn't in alignment to who I am. But at the end of the day, it really came down to asking myself, who am I and what do I deeply desire and what are my personal values and what is important to me? And this isn't something that turns on the next day. It was such a process and such an understanding of, oh gosh, what I had. There was so much excavating to do, even coming back from my childhood, that led me into a place that felt really inauthentic to me. And then to step away from that, then you're asking yourself, wow, without this, who am I?
Yes.
So then it's like this identity kind of crisis, if you will. And then sort of this rebuilding. But I always say you don't have to burn it all down to build it all back up. We've intentionally been in places and spaces throughout our whole lives for different reasons, and that will serve us in different ways. And we can lift and apply to other things. But I really love this process that you have around taking brave action, because when we're in moments of suffering, or like you said, having something on your heart that you want to express and that you know is there, and listening to that intuitive nudge, how do you help your clients take brave action? What does that look like?
Yes. So what I love about your podcast is that it's so dedicated to truth, intention, and connection and service, and really embodying. And sometimes, a lot of the times when we hear those words, we feel so nourished. It's like such a safe place. But it takes brave action for us to actually express it out into the world, like to be the creators rather than the consumers. And something that came to mind while you were just talking before I share the brave action process is that the burnout, it happens slowly. But once you get to that point where you take it out, and you said, like, what do I value? We lack this distinct amount of trust in belonging to ourselves. I think when we're conditioned to seek, and our ego loves being the most intelligent or the most sought after, the most respected, especially in corporate settings, especially as a lady. I find a lot of my clients, and maybe you can relate, a lot of them had to lean into their masculine and drive and push and push in order to find that respect that really they didn't feel they could respect themselves because they felt other, like you and I both have. And so the first piece of it, when it comes to taking brave action, breaking procrastination or overwhelm or overthinking, that I like to think about is that every time you procrastinate or say you're going to do something and then don't do it, you're not hurting just your productivity, right? That's a masculine concept and it has its place, but you're hurting your relationship with yourself that you've built. You're causing friction or dissolving that self-relationship every time that you break a promise to yourself or disappoint yourself. I had this one woman I was talking to, and she's an artist and she works with resin and she just absolutely loves it. And she wants to spend more time on it and she wants to go big on it, but she's like scared of what would happen if she really unleashed the beast. And typical Tuesday night, her husband comes home, they're chilling on the couch, and she feels that nudge to go down into the basement, pour some resin and create and like really in my opinion, channel her universal purpose.
Sure.
But she doesn't do it because she feels comfortable with her husband. She doesn't know what her husband's going to think, even though he's the most supportive man alive. And that leads to disappointment every time that we say, no, I'll make an excuse. It's like a self-abusive relationship. So when you don't follow through on your purpose, the small thing that you need to do for your business, the big thing that you need to do, the big scary thing that you've been holding back on, but that you've been continually nudged to do, it really disintegrates that relationship. And when it comes to taking brave action, there has to be that sense of belonging within you to say, I am important enough to take a risk.
Yes.
Because if we don't believe that we are important enough or that our actions or our value is high enough to take a risk, we will just never do it and we'll stay playing small. And that hurts all women everywhere and all men everywhere, of course. But
me and my girlfriend were just talking the other day. We were like, we come first. And that doesn't come from a place of like not wanting to take good care of our spouses or our partners or our children or our friends or important relationships in our lives. But we come first. And that means I will nurture myself. I will rest. I will say no. I'll say yes. Like I will do the things that I know I energetically or spiritually or even physically need to be able to sustain a life where I can continue to serve and to give and to love and to care for. And I hear so many women say that feels selfish. It's selfish. Like if I hear that word one more time, Amanda, like, and I get it. I do. Like hand to heart. I completely understand. No judgment. I just like, ladies, it is not selfish to take care of you. It is a sign of self-respect. And so, and I like to say that it also gives other people the permission to do the same. And so I just, I had to make that call.
I love that. And I was just laying in bed thinking about this last night, actually, so serendipitous that the thought it's selfish for me to take care of myself. If we just step back from that and just look at it for what it is I'm not valuable.
Yes.
I have no value. Other people have more value than I do.
It's a worth. It's a worthiness thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so freaking sad. Like it makes my heart really, really sad that this is just ingrained in half of our population or more. That idea that we're second-class citizens, that we're the weaker sex, whatever. It's like, if we don't adjust it, if we don't truly put ourselves first, if we don't see it as selfish to not take care of ourselves, then we will be passing that down to generations and generations, and more women will experience the suffering that nobody deserves. Nobody deserves to feel like they're not worth anything.
And you know, the thing is too, I couldn't agree more. It is, I mean, I'm here for generational change as well. It's something, as you know, I've got 2 young daughters, and it's something that I do and model for them as well. Like that's important to me. And when you start to have those boundaries, it may be a little rocky in the beginning because you're shaking shit up and people are like, whoa, this isn't how a relationship goes. You don't usually say no to these things. No, but you always say yes, or just things start to shift and maybe in uncomfortable ways. And sometimes people don't want us to change. But you get over that hump and that discomfort. And then it comes to a place of alignment, and there's more peace and there's more ease. And it's like our new normal. And then you may even see that some people are celebrating that choice and that other people are modeling the same thing and taking the similar action and time and space. But yeah. So back to this whole brave action process. I know we kind of got off on a tangent because we could probably talk about so many different things today. Yeah. But coming back to that brave action. And I think this ties in nicely, though, what we were talking about it feeling selfish and going back to your client, the artist, and her not listening to that nudge because she was comfortable. So how do you move women through that process?
The big thing, and it's really like tying everything that we've talked about together, is that you have to come from a place of understanding that there's always going to be two things at odds, right? It's your intuition in the universe, your higher self, and your human brain that is, evolutionarily speaking, hundreds of thousands of years old and has three motivations: to avoid pain, to seek pleasure, and to maintain efficiency. That's it. Mm-hmm. If you start to believe and trust your brain all the time and all the thoughts that it has, even as a successful person, you will not feel the magic or understand the potential, the limitless potential that you could reach with the help of the magic wand, which is the intuition and the ability to take brave action to follow that intuition. And so a lot of people see these brave actions and they A, don't think that they're brave enough, or B, they play on repeat the negative experience that they're going to have when they take it, because their brain is a negativity bias machine, all these things we know. And so the first step is to really understand that you have to break that pattern if you ever want to take brave action. So the first step is, let's say that you're like that artist sitting on the couch. First step, when you notice that thought of, making an excuse for yourself, when you hear that intuitive nudge and you don't follow through on it, there's always a thought that's an excuse that your brain has well-worn patterns around. Mm-hmm. So the first thing you want to do is take a deep breath. And what that does on a psychological level is it interrupts the neural pathway that has been creating this fear and worry and doubt and playing small in you. So, for example, like I'm comfortable, or I'm tired, or I had a long day. You hear that thought and you take a breath. And even if you just do that for a week, you're interrupting that neural pathway and you're creating a breakdown to allow newer thoughts to come in, to allow yourself to not be seized by fear. And
you're
instead,
interrupting the thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that moves you to the second piece, which is, for context, your brain, especially nowadays, and this comes from my time studying digital minimalism, your brain is constantly seeking short-term and instant gratification. And it's up to us to see that that short-term instant gratification is probably never going to serve us. That if we are to be the thoughtful and conscious leaders that we want to be, we're always going to want to reach for the long term. But the second piece is to think about your future self and your vision. What would they do in this instance? What is the action that they would take? How would they feel if I were a woman who loved herself? If I were a woman who valued herself? If I were a woman who was brave beyond belief and played bigger than ever before, what would I do in this moment? I probably wouldn't keep kicking it on the couch. I would probably get up and go do this beautiful thing that's on my heart. And that requires valuing the universe's input as well. Because so often as high achieving women, especially, we think we can do it all ourselves and we want to, and we get upset when there's control taken from us. But the second piece, the first piece is you take a deep breath and then you immediately think about, what would X do? If you can't access your future self, what would somebody you look up to do? What would a brave woman do? A woman who nourishes herself, a well woman, a woman who values herself, what would she do? And then the third thing is to act from that place, to recognize that your brain is going to disagree and it's going to send a flurry of thoughts your way and a flurry of shitty feelings through your veins that are going to try to cement you to that couch. But you have to actually move your bones in your body to get up and do the thing and really regulate all along the process of like how you speak to yourself and doing what you want to do. Mel Robbins has a really great 5-second rule idea where this is what I do in the morning when I just don't want to get up, cozy in bed. I think about the future version of myself. I tune into the possibility of what's going to happen with my day if I follow my intuition. And then I count down from 5 and I roll myself out of bed. And a bonus in the brave action process is to do it from a place of imperfection, because especially high achieving badass women, right? We are accustomed to perfectionism within ourselves, maladaptive perfectionism. There's good perfectionism that helps us, that is really the driver behind what we do. But when we let it cripple us, it's just a convenient excuse. And so the fourth bonus piece is when you're actually taking the action to do it from a place of B-, not a place of A+. Because your people that you're doing this action for, your B- is their A++ times 1,000 gold star, right? Because you actually did it and it's infused with that intuition, that mystery, that magic, that potential that supercharges everything that we do.
What would you say? So I love this four-step process. So we're breathing, we're noticing, we're envisioning what would our future self do. We're taking aligned action, and then coming from a perspective of that B- and just allowing it not to be perfect, but we're showing up for us, and then we're showing up for whomever our product or service is serving. How do you tell your clients, what are some tips to trusting your intuition? And because I think sometimes maybe we can feel like, gosh, is this just sort of a random sort of thought or idea that I have, or am I acting too impulsively here? Or because it can be so unfamiliar to us, some ideas or thoughts that we're having that don't really feel like ours because they're not, ladies. They're not. That's coming. I mean, any sort of inspirational thought or idea that you just got hit with that feels very uncertain and like, where did this even come from? It's meant for you. It's very much meant for you. So this is where the brave action comes from. But how do you tell women how to trust that and what to take action on?
In my coaching practice, we use a lot of human design.
Okay.
And yes. I find that that's really helpful for especially analytical women. It's like a good mix of kind of everything. Can you tell
our audience a little bit about, just briefly, what human design is?
Oh, yeah. It's a mix of a lot of different archetypes, numerology, astrology, all of the different kind of new age stuff that's actually really old age.
Yes.
It's a mix of all of it. And you kind of categorize yourself into one of 4 different types of people: generators, projectors, manifesting generators, and reflectors. And a lot of the women that I work with are generators, which means that they are here to work. They are here to create, and they have these huge purposes, and they just get a lot of joy and satisfaction from it. But I work with human design specifically in the different gates that people have and their authorities that help them understand. So I'll make a generalization that the authority, I'll speak for myself. The authority that I have is an emotional authority. If it feels good to me, more often than not, it is a good sign that I'm following my intuition. Some people have a sacral authority. They have to feel it in their gut, right? And if they feel it, then they have to move forward. But I think if you're starting from ground zero with intuition, you just have to do it. You have to do it to know if it's the right decision, the right or the aligned decision. Because your mind and your intuition, like I said, they're kind of at odds with each other in this really beautiful, paradoxical way. And a lot of my clients, and maybe a lot of yours, are like, I'm so scared that I'm going to make the wrong decision. But you have to become accustomed to what alignment feels like in your own body. I don't think anyone can tell you what it feels like. I think alignment, if this thought or brave action feels good on some level, if it feels the right mix of exciting and terrifying, that's a good sign. If it feels like a direction in which you want to grow, that's a good sign. And if it feels like you're putting your faith on the line and your mind is confused, that's a really good sign. A lot of intuitive thoughts, your brain will respond to with what if. That's a really good sign as well, because your brain is not used to acting intuitively. So it'll be like, what if they think I'm weird? Or what if this goes horribly wrong? Or what if my business fails, right? Those kinds of thoughts. Everyone has them. We always, always will. But the intuitive, the more that you practice it, the better and better you will get at recognizing in your body, oh, okay, I feel this maybe in my stomach. Or if it's a mind decision, it feels really logical. If I were to put it on paper, it would be super logical, but something doesn't feel right within me, right? Does that answer the question?
It does. It does. And I think you're right. I mean, it is something, it's about building trust within ourselves.
Yes.
It really is. And you're building that trust muscle. And it's something that you have to spend time with. And it's something that you have to cultivate and take care of and nurture. And I think, the easiest thing to do, or well, maybe not always the easiest, but the first step, I think, is getting close to your personal values. We talk a lot about personal values on this show. And so what are your personal values? What's important to you? Just getting grounded and rooted in that first and foremost. So that way you do have that North Star and you're beginning to build more intention in your life, as opposed to moving through our days just trying to survive. Just trying to survive and get through all of like the transactional day-to-day things. And then this is where you're also getting burnt out. You're thinking, I tell women, I'm like, are you so busy but so bored? There's your first sign.
I love that.
Like, I'm so busy, but I'm so bored.
Yeah.
Ladies, I know you felt this way before.
And you know what? When you follow and define those values, that's such a good point. As you like make those brave decisions to live in your values, you're living in alignment. And so your antenna, your channel will become much clearer, and you'll be able to like interpret and download intuitive signs so much better. So I love that angle of like, if you're not practiced in your intuition or anything like that, just aligning yourself with your values and acting with those values, you're going to notice your intuitive abilities pick up, and you're going to notice yourself trusting even more. But that first, God, there's so many weird things that I've done with my intuition, like pulling me toward it. And then only in hindsight, I was like, oh, that was huge. That was so important. That healed my self-relationship. That helped me in so many ways. Yeah. So it's leaning into the mystery and not always clinging to the logic.
Yes. And when you say that, it may not even always be this. When you're listening to your intuition, what I've personally found is that it's not always even this beautiful outcome, like this glamorous outcome. It could be a lesson that you need to learn that will then assist you into the next glamorous outcome potentially. And so it takes a lot of patience, doesn't it?
And so much bravery.
And
to
so
be
much
like,
bravery.
I'm going to follow this, and I trust that no matter what the outcome is, even if I temporarily think it's shitty, I just trust that it's happening for my highest good, and that all of my dreams will come true.
Yeah.
I really believe they will.
So when you think about the level, I suppose, of action, so we could take kind of like bite-sized action, or we could take huge leaps. And I think everyone is a little bit different in the size of action that they would be able to sustain based on their readiness for the change.
Right.
But what I would say is it takes a level of awareness and intention, because we don't want to tripwire the system and going like too far out our comfort zone, because then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't be out here. I'm way too exposed. I got to run back. Right?
Yeah.
So how are you moving women through how to take aligned action in a way that feels digestible and sustainable for them? And I'm sure it's a customized kind of thing, but are there any sort of rules or maybe parameters or guidelines or tips that you might give our audience for, okay, start with X, or sign up for the class, or take the webinar? I don't know. Is there anything that you see that is a pattern amongst your clients that might feel a little bit more sustainable in their approach?
Yes, actually, I do. And it's not super direct, because a lot of it is custom, like you said, but I've noticed that a lot of my clients, they desire consistency in themselves when they're taking action.
Okay.
Like when they're working out or posting on social media or like getting a sales process, whatever. I am always of the mind that rather than try to make things perfect, which is really what they're saying when they say consistency, it has to come from a place of becoming uncomfortable, or becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like, I need to release the vice grip that I have on control in small ways. So why is control important to me? Like, why do I really want control in this moment? Where is this frustration coming from? If my intuition is telling me to take one brave action and I don't agree with it, where is this frustration? Why do I feel like I need to control? And usually the answer comes down to some sort of emotion that you want to feel. So you want to avoid the pain of potential failure. You want to feel the comfort of staying in your comfort zone. But really, when we become okay and when we totally release the need for control, if we do it in the right way with the right guidance, it feels like a free fall that is not out of alignment with who you are. Because I've taken big risks in my life that only in hindsight were mind and not intuition. And they have always felt a little bit like what you were saying, like, oh God, like I did that. And it always worked out. There was always a lesson. But when we can give up that sense of control and start to be like, okay, I trust that I'm going to be fine either way. I see in my past the pattern of how everything has always worked out for me in my favor. When we can lean into that now in the present moment, we can start to free ourselves from that vice grip that fear has on us around taking brave action. So I don't know if there's any particular tip or strategy that I could give that is more important than becoming comfortable with that discomfort and just knowing that you just have to do it. Like, you just have to try in order to really know. And so that emotional regulation, that mindset mastery, that leaning into trust, that surrender, all of it, that's going to fortify your brave action and create a foundation of like, life is a game. Let's play it. Let's see what happens. I know even if I go broke and I'm out on the street, I'm going to make it work. And everybody has that fear, right? And very few people actually live it when they take these risks. But if you do live that biggest fear, you just have to trust that it's meant for you and that there's some sort of lesson along the way.
And the true reward of pursuing your inspiration, pursuing your deepest desires is this whole concept of leaning into your truth and authenticity. And until you start to experience what that feels like, I can understand how the doubts would creep in and how the procrastination would happen and how we would just be stuck in inaction. But I can promise you, I say this all the time, I can promise you that when you start to lean into that, you're going to learn so much more about yourself. It may not always be easy, but the good moments are like awesome.
So
moments.
Good. Yes.
And so juicy. And it really fuels more passion and purpose and intention and love and expansion. And I think maybe for me, that would be something too that I would tell women and men. When you are thinking about something, it does feel fearful because it's uncertain, it's unknown. But if it feels curious and exciting and expansive, like just go for it in a way that feels digestible to you. And yeah, it's certainly a muscle, like I said, that has to be built. And in this world of so much information coming at us all the time, we always talk about too the importance of getting quiet with yourself and taking the intentional time to think through, to be still, to be quiet, to be with your breath, to feel in your body. There's no easy way of saying, like, you have to get quiet. You have to get still. You have to slow down. And for anybody who, like, let's just sort of cut the shit. When anybody who's like, I don't have time to slow down, how do you expect me to? That's up to you. This is where you have to find like radical honesty with yourself and accountability. And if you're ready for change, like, let's go. These are the things that have to happen.
Right.
So.
And if you're not doing that, I love what you just said and cut the shit. Hell yeah. I think that that radical honesty, if you are truly honest with yourself and you truly, truly see the value in your own self, you can cut so much out of your life.
Yes.
Not in a way that is like, I'm taking scissors and I'm being petty. It's a way of like, I value myself. I value this journey. I value my purpose so much more than I value the bullshit, the drama, the cupcakes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you really can create that time. There's no part of you that, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day and she said, you have a choice not to pick up your kids from school, but you do it. You have a choice not to help them with their homework, but you do it. Right? You could choose to not go to work at all and watch TV all day. These are choices that you make. Everything that we do is a choice. And so once we get really clear, like you said, on your values, and we get clear in our intuition and we get clear on our alignment, so much of the bullshit that we valued so much because we exported our belonging to others and outside sources, we call that power back. And we are able to create time for our stillness because the time is there. We just fill it with our phones. We fill it with random stuff that isn't important. We fill it because we don't set boundaries. And then we're just like not that clear, aligned, compact energy that we were really intended to be, with rock solid boundaries and doing our purpose and letting the rest of it fall away.
And with clarity comes conviction. And then when you take the time to get clear about what it is you deeply desire, what's important to you, then there is no wavering and waffling and we all still get distracted. We're human. And it's going to happen. You're going to be thrown off course. Like life is going to come at you again. But guess what? This is where we've built the tools and the capacity and the mindset and the mindfulness to get ourselves back on track. Amanda, what would you say if there are some women out there who are ready to explore more of your services? Tell us a little bit about some of your offerings and their benefits and how women can find more about you.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much for this opportunity. That's very generous. So right now I'm working on a 1-to-1 container capacity.
Ooh.
And it is deep. So the clients that choose to work with me, they get all of me. And it's so great. I went back and forth on group for a while, but I know that the women that I'm meant to work with really crave that deeply powerful, individualized attention. Okay. And so that's where I'm at right now, kind of a living example of brave action, just trusting that the people that are going to come to me will come to me. And a lot of these women are business owners. They are ready to play big. They know a taste of what they're capable of because they've started the business or they've seen success, but they haven't been able to act, manifest, or attain their vision in a consistent way, right? And so they come to me in order to supercharge their powers just in all different ways in life and business. And that's what the program is called, Supercharge. So we mix that manifestation wisdom and that brave action and strategy to supercharge life goals, business goals, self-worth, accessing these really high-level mastery concepts. And along the way, you're in my pocket. I'm in your pocket. We're supporting each other, but also I'm there for you when you need it. So that's the beauty, I think, of the really deep, like rich soil of the one-on-one container. And if they wanted to learn more about me, I invite them to my Instagram at Amanda Popovski. And there's my link tree that leads them to my website and to all the fun things. But just, I implore you to DM me and let me know that you heard this podcast episode. And I would love to give you some love back and listen to your insights that you gained.
I love that. I am really curious to know this manifestation wisdom that you just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think this is such an important piece of what you do, is hitting on that spiritual connection and knowing that coming back to source, to God, whatever you want to call it, universe. So it gives us more strength and courage, knowing that we are divinely supported. Yes. That in and of itself is such a gift. Like, it's such a gift to tap women into that sort of energetic. Tell us a little bit about that manifestation wisdom.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. So I think that the only way that we can truly play big in our lives is if we tap into manifestation wisdom. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is that a lot of my clients come to me already knowing on a logical level the concepts of vision and having a rock solid mindset and that money is value and all of these different things. They kind of know it on a logical level through books, through podcasts, through courses they've taken. They know. But it's a whole different ballgame when you actually focus on transmuting all of that knowledge into embodiment and really going big on this manifestation thing. And like I said, I started out coaching on purpose, and then I started out coaching on brave action, and it worked because I incorporated the alignment and the feminine into it in a way that really resonated with my people. And now I'm just like, fully witch, fully embodied, fully excited to share that we have a wisdom so far beyond us that really contributes to the super success of people in our lifetime. Like, I think you can run yourself ragged comparing yourself to others. And I also think that if you look around at the people who are truly living success in the way that you define it, chances are very high that they are working less hard, accessing more creativity, accessing more pleasure, ease, passion, play than the people next to them. And that's what's created their supernatural level of success. It's this magic wand that we have that once we figure out how to make it work, like I said, it just supercharges everything in our lives. And we feel so much more present and aligned. And the world takes on a hue of limitless possibility. And I think that's really what I'm here to help women tap into, like you said.
This has been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, I love jamming on all these concepts with you. This was so cool. Thank you for that very generous shout out. And I'm just really honored to be here. Thank you.
So beautiful. Okay, so women can find you. Can you tell us your website and your Instagram again? And then we will obviously drop everything in the show notes. And then if you have any offerings coming up or anything special you'd like to call out, that would be amazing. Let us know about it.
Okay, yeah. So it's amandapopovski.com and at Amanda Popovski on Instagram. You can get the spelling of my very Macedonian last name in the show notes. And then, you know what? I think it will be just a little too late when this airs, but I am running a mini manifestation course. So I think it's been a pretty good hit so far. So I think I'll probably run it again. So if you get on my email list, you'll be the first to know. And that link is in my link tree on Instagram.
Amazing. 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 All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to make sure that we shared with our listeners today? We covered a lot of ground. Anything else burning on your heart?
Yes. I want women to see that they are valuable exactly as they are, and that they are just one seed of thousands, millions, billions at this point of different seeds on this planet, and that it's not a coincidence that they were born in this time. And it takes a lot of bravery to be a human being right now, I think, with all of the things that we're facing. But if you can tap into that bravery, if you can start to really shed all of the layers that make you feel you're unworthy, that are truly lies, then you can start to live this beautifully empowered life and play as big as you want, bigger than you ever thought possible.
Empowered life. I love that. I love that word.
Yeah.
I think it's one of my favorite words. Amanda, what does it mean to you to live a consciously inspired life?
To me, a consciously inspired life means a balance of consciousness and inspiration. So again, using the mind and the intuition in their due time. So when I think of consciously inspired, it means that I'm actively using my mind to inspire myself and enhance my consciousness. But I am also living deeply in inspiration, which is that divine surrender and trust. And I think the concept of truly living instead of just kind of existing or surviving is a really beautiful concept that you've brought to the world. And so the third part is like consciously inspired life, embracing your life as that seed and letting it grow to its fullest capacity.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Amazing. All right, everybody, you must reach out to Amanda, and we'll have, again, all the links in the show notes. And I know that you all will walk away today with a level of inspiration and a spark of intention and value in what we chatted about today. So thanks for being here. And everybody, have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to learn more about Consciously Inspired Minds, you can visit us at consciouslyinspiredminds.com. If these episodes have you wondering how you can design a life uniquely inspired by you, head on over to modelifestylecoaching.com. That's MODE lifestylecoaching.com and schedule a free call. I'd love to learn more about your deepest desires and how we can get you closer to your authentic life vision and impact. Until we connect again, explore what inspires you.